The Homance Chronicles.
The female equivalent of a bromance.
So many poor choices.
But so many good times.
But so many poor choices. This is the Homance Chronicles, and I'm Sarah.
And I'm Nicole.
And we've just been catching up on life, all the craziness.
It feels like it's been longer than a week since we recorded for some reason.
It really does. And I think it just might be the amount of activities that happened between then and now.
Quite possibly. I had my dad and stepmom staying with me for a few days. So maybe that's making it feel like there was a longer span of time.
Yeah. Time stretched out for a minute. And I was supposed to go on a trip and didn't.
Right.
It was just threw me into a weird dimension for the whole fucking weekend.
Right.
But we're here now. Yay, Monday, June 23rd. And our story is not a lady of the first to do something. She was the last to do something.
Oh. That was a weird way to say that, but I think I got there with you.
Yeah, no. I was thinking like, okay, last week you did Ruth Ellis, and I was like, I'm going to do this week's Ruth Ellis. And they're two different ladies, two different wildly, tragically different stories.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Last week I mentioned that when I was Googling for Ruth Ellis, there was a different woman that was showing up who was either a murderess or had been murdered, or there was a lot of true crime affiliated with her. And I was like, that's not who I'm talking about today, though.
No, that's who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Perfect.
This is the UK's version of Ruth Ellis, a completely different story, a totally different tale.
I'm like, it's not even their version of Ruth Ellis. They just share a name.
Right. Well, versions. True. Touche. A different Ruth Ellis. No way, shape, or form are they connected except for their name.
Yes. And I'm like sitting here squeezing this stress ball, and it says, there's various things that it says on it about where you'd rather be than where you are right now. Like, I'd rather be anywhere but here. I'd rather be at the beach. And like, all of those are also true. Not that I don't enjoy recording with you, but it's been
a day.
Quite the heat wave the last couple of days. And I decided, I guess I decided, I don't know. It was a joint decision to power wash my house yesterday in the 100-degree heat.
Who jointly made that decision? Who's we?
My dad and I. But my dad was doing the power washing, so he was actually soaking wet, like from the water, like splashing back on him and stuff. I was not. I didn't have the adult sprinkler. So, yesterday felt like 100 days.
Yes. That might be the other thing too, is moving around in all of this heat. Mind you, it hasn't been a lot of movement outside in this heat, but it has been movement I've been making. Oh boy. Our bulldog Squeeps. She is not built for this shit, period. She can't breathe. Like, she needs a gas mask at all times, you know? Like one of those little oxygen masks. Even like the nose plug, she could do with that. She's not built for this shit when it's like decent out, let alone when it's scorched earth out. And so because of that, we still need to get her outside and get her energy like down, because she is still a dog. And so we've taken up where she does her outside pool visits. So she gets like 2 to 3 10-minute sessions a day where she'll go outside and dig incessantly in the pool on her own volition. I have to yank her out of the pool after she's like, been looking at me for 10 seconds going, I don't think I'm going to make it, looking like she's going to, pass out. She clocks in and I got to clock her out. It's incredible.
Out of the kiddie pool.
Yes. And like, thankfully we have 2 umbrellas that shade us from the heat of the sun while she's doing this. Cause otherwise I would be a piece of bacon for the amount of time it takes to get her out of that pool, dry her off, make sure she doesn't jump back in the fucking thing after I get her dried off, all while she's panting like she could potentially lose her life. It's insane. So that's That's what I deal with. And part of me wants to put camera footage onto the world wide web for this, just so that people can see, like, you're not alone with these kinds of dogs. But it would just be more effort and work for nothing, because ain't nobody gonna pay me for that shit.
I mean, isn't there like Doug the Pug and all these other ones that have those smushed faces that probably are
Well,
covering that piece of the internet?
more than likely, yes. There's just no competing with that. And really, it'd be for others just to just thoroughly enjoy. Maybe one day I'll gift y'all with it, but for right now,
Yeah.
we're all set.
Yeah. Send us to the group chat
It's a lot of work.
to record a video over and send it to the group chat.
Well, like the whole act of getting the video recording set up, getting it scened up, framed up, making sure I'm in the whole thing the whole time,
Oh.
producing
I'm
it.
just thinking that you're going to hold your phone and quick little boop,
Oh
record.
no, you guys have to see me drying her off and coaxing her out of the pool. And the human interaction piece is where it's at, because she's a little brat.
Oh, gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it's also was like what the longest day of the year is June 21st,
Saturday.
right?
Yep. We're now in
So,
summer solstice.
I just keep bringing these things up to justify why I feel the way I do.
I mean, it's also crazy to think that the sun doesn't set until like 9:30 now, and the last light is at like between 9:30 and 10 p.m., which is past my fucking bedtime. So that's
You're in
fun.
bed when it's still light out.
Truly, I am. And sometimes I'll wake up and be like, huh, I missed something. And it's like, nope, it's just 10 p.m. 10 p.m. It is not, in fact, 9 a.m. It is still 10 p.m.
Well, now that we've gotten through our whole old lady routine that we've been doing lately, we're at
Mm-hmm.
the top of the show. We're just like, what old lady things can we complain about to each other and hope that it doesn't sound like complaining to others and it just sounds like we're a community?
Yeah, I know there's other people out there that feel this. They
This
still
is a
listen.
this is a communal feeling, right?
But they still listen. It's fine.
Yep. So we've gotten that out of the way, the old
Woo.
lady feels. And so
Talking about her.
now, if you want to get into murderess Ruth Ellis.
Yes. Matter of fact, I do. So, just a trigger warning, there is child sexual abuse, child sexual, etc., etc., etc. Just, it's not a great fucking story by any means, but it is a story that I think we should all hear now after reading it and doing the paper on it, because it's crazy. So we'll just jump right in. This is, again, her name is Ruth Ellis, but it is not the Ruth Ellis we covered from Detroit, Michigan. This is Ruth Ellis from the UK. She was born on October 9th, 1926 in Ryle Denbighshire, Wales. I don't know all of the different places and relative to where they are in this story. Um, so we're not going to cover like the whole hopping around situation.
The
Um,
geography is being left out.
yes, we're doing that.
Okay.
And just so that we all understand why we're talking about her, she was the 18th and the last lady to be executed by hanging in the UK. So,
Hmm.
yes,
I
she
wonder, so
was
when did hanging stop?
1964.
Oh, damn. That wasn't that long ago.
No.
Oh my God.
And
What is the point?
lynching is still not federally illegal in the states,
Correct.
also. And so there
Yeah.
are, if there is the death penalty, that is an option in some states in the states. But yes, 1964. So she was the fifth of six children in her family. Her parents had moved to Basingstoke, Hampshire, England. Her mother was called Bertha. She was a Belgian war refugee, and her dad was a cellist from Manchester. He played on the Atlantic liners for a time being. They were wed in 1920, and he changed his name from Arthur Hornby to Arthur Nelson around that time. Apparently, he would move the family around quite a bit and change his surname often. Insert ominous tones is what I put. So he was an absolute dog shit of a human being, piece of shit human being. He had a twin who was actually killed in a bicycle accident when Ruth was about 2 years old in 1928. That's when he started to be pretty physically abusive and sexually abusive to the eldest sister, Muriel. Mom, Bertha, did know about the abuse, but did absolutely nothing about it. Muriel later stated that her mom couldn't say anything because he was so abusive to her also. When she was 14 years old, Muriel birthed a child from her father, and the mom Bertha raised it. So just a little
Oh,
peek. Yeah. Like just a little peek.
golly.
Heavy, heavy home life. Muriel
I mean, in
also
that situation, like I don't even understand how people survive
right.
because they can't go anywhere. They're stuck.
No.
This man will hunt them down
Right.
if they escape.
He's a
And they
menace.
probably
He
have
changes his name
no,
constantly.
I'm sure they have no resources of their own,
She's
as
got
part of the
none.
whole control, right?
She's a
And
refugee, so
so,
yeah, 100%.
yeah, I don't, wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow, wow.
So, you know, it didn't change. Didn't matter what country, men were still being men
Mm,
and the shit version of themselves.
mm. And
He,
this is, this is why when it was not that long ago and women were being asked, would they rather be lost in the woods with a bear or a man? And every woman said a bear, and men
yeah.
couldn't believe it. And it's like, you know what other men do, right? Like,
Right. Like, we're not saying that you're a bad person till you become a bad person and then you're that bad person. But there are also other people outside of your purview that are bad fucking people too. Like it's not just you we're talking about. So don't take it personally. Do better by your others, your peers.
but I mean, this is why, though.
Right. 100%. Like this man got his child pregnant and the mom raised it. What the fucking fuck? It's gross.
And we were in the 1900s.
Yeah.
This is not, the whole like
Less
monarchy and trying to keep things in royalty and
right. No, this is
this
less
is
than 100 years ago.
yeah.
This is a piece of shit dude being a piece of shit dude.
Mm, 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 mm.
So Muriel absolutely tried to save Ruth from all of this diabolicalness and would be able to tell when her dad was becoming a piece of shit and would send Ruth out into the streets to play or whatever. But at some point, Ruth got sucked into. She attended Fairfield's Senior Girls' School in Basingstoke till 1940. Then she went on to Warding Village School after leaving just at 14 years old. Um, and then her first job was an usherette in a theater and reading. So the dad is like coming and going, being a total dog shit human being, as I said. He ends up moving to London on his own after accepting a gig to be a live-in caretaker slash chauffeur for the Porn and Dunworthy Limited Company, which was a lift manufacturer at the time. So uh her
It's crazy
brother,
to give him a caretaker title.
right, and I don't know what that entailed, if that meant like medical caretaker or I'm assuming it was human caretaker. So her older brother Julian, who was um around here and there, was actually on leave from the Royal Navy. His girlfriend Edna Turvey shows up, and Edna was obviously older than Ruth and introduced her to the quote unquote fast life where,
Mm,
drinks
mhm.
and men and fast women, etc., etc. They eventually moved to London to, continue that lifestyle and ended up moving in with the piece of shit dad. He continued to abuse Ruth and then started an affair with Edna at the same time. It was only until Bertha came to London and found them in bed did that affair end, and that actually prompted that prompted Bertha to move to London herself. So this man is just a menace, and all the while, Ruth is trying to make money for herself. In 1944, she's 17, gets pregnant by a Canadian soldier who was married, called Claire Andrea McCallum. She was forced to move into a nursing hospital in Gillsland, Cumberland, and on September 15th, she gave birth to her child son, Claire Andrea Andy Nielsen. So, two men who have full on taken advantage of her in one way or another. She names her first child after them.
Mm-hmm.
Only took a year for the Canadian deadbeat to stop sending money, and she had to send her son to live with Bertha so she could work several factory and clerical jobs to support him. By the end of the 1940s, her nude modeling work landed her a gig in Soho as a nightclub hostess. Let me just let y'all saturate on that for a second. Her nude photos landed her a gig in a nightclub as a hostess in Soho.
Mm-hmm.
Fucked. So,
Mm-hmm.
of course, the job paid significantly more than her manual labor jobs, and eventually the manager at the court club on Duke Street, his name was Morris Conley. He blackmailed her like all the others and ended up sleeping with her as he did. It was the early 1950s that she became pregnant once again by one of her clients, as she was now a full-blown escort as well as hostess. At some point, she lost her job as a hostess, but that was okay because on November 8th in 1950, she married her 41-year-old client, who was a divorced dentist with two sons of his own. He was called George Johnston Ellis and was a violent and possessive man, and full-blown alcoholic, and was fully convinced she was having an affair on him. She would always come back to him when she left while she was pregnant. Like
Do we
4
know if
months,
he's the father?
he was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So while she was pregnant, she actually did appear in, like, I'm assuming what's considered to be a smut film as a beauty queen in the film called Lady Godiva Rides Again. Eventually, though, she did give birth to a daughter who she named Georgina.
Mm-hmm.
By 1951, he completely denied paternity and divorced her right soon after that. So,
Why
two
why
men.
even go through this whole why get married? Why do like
Right,
sure.
sir. They're in England. I don't know if that had something to do with it, being proper and all that shit, but they did it. So it's 1953. She is the manager
Oh,
of,
you know what?
uh,
I wonder like when the baby came out, if the baby didn't look like enough like him or something.
I mean,
And he thought it
probably,
was like a different client
maybe, because he was accusing her of cheating
having
on
an
him.
affair.
Yeah, 100%. Like, he probably couldn't handle it. But so it's 1953. She has taken classes for elocution and etiquette, which gave her a little social leg up, and she became the youngest manager of the Little Club at just 27 years old. This nightclub catered more towards the racing car community, and it was kind of like a frat, if you will. She ended up having plenty of admirers at that stage because she was fucking beautiful. She was blonde, she had a nice face, and she was attractive, conventionally attractive. So she
I'm
would get,
assuming she was voluptuous if she's taking nude photos.
I mean, she probably had like regular curves, but it's the UK. So she had a good face, good mouthful of teeth. No offense. That was a joke. So one of her friends called Mike Hawthorne. He was a race car driver who was fairly well known. Introduced her to a guy called David Blakely. He was about 3 years younger than her. He was heavy drinking motherfucker, and apparently he was trying to start up a race crew and build his own race car so he could compete. So dreams and visions of grandeur with no actual traction and momentum. He moved into her flat within few weeks and got her pregnant, even though he was engaged to another woman. She chose to have an abortion that time around because she wasn't as into him as he was into her. Like, she couldn't commit to his level of commitment, and told him that. I should also mention that her flat was just above the club that she worked at, so that was another little bit of ammo for her to get kicked out. Shortly after that, she started to see another guy called Desmond Cusson. He was another Royal Air Force pilot who flew in the Second World War at the same time. I'm sorry. So she was starting to see him and Blakely at the same time. Soon, she was let go of the nightclub for her behavior, like I said. He was really good with money and became the director of the family business, a wholesale and retail tobacconist with stores in London and South Wales. He was a financier and became the financial guy of the company. Eventually, she would move in with him, even though she kept seeing Blakely, who was actually still engaged, still having affairs with both men and women, and becoming more and more violent as the days grew long.
That's a loaded package. Goodness.
Right? Like, it just compounds. It keeps getting worse. She ghost wrote about her experience in the Woman's Sunday Mirror in an article stating she'd give him money for smokes and booze, but he'd beat her after because he would be too drunk. Eventually, he asked her to marry him, and she agreed. Shortly thereafter, miscarried in January of 1995 because he punched her in the stomach while they were arguing.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
April 10 of 1955. There's not much more between January and Easter Sunday, which is April 10, 1955. So the story goes that Ruth takes a cab from Cousins, the finance guy, his apartment they shared, to the second floor flat she believed Blakely was hiding out in. She got there only to see him drive off in his vehicle with a friend. She then paid the cab that took her to the apartment and walked the quarter mile to the Magdala Public House in South Hill Park, where she found his car on the road. So this is at night, like evening time. Around 9:30 p.m., he and his friend Clive walk out of the bar, pass her while she's waiting in the doorway of the newsstand next door, and they get to the car. As he is searching for his keys, she comes out of the shadows with a .38 revolver, which only has 6 bullets. It's one of those ones that goes in circles like cowboys use. Pulls it from her purse, fires one shot at Blakely and misses. She then started to run after him as he went around the vehicle, fired another shot, and he collapsed. She then stood over him and shot 3 more times, the last shot being fired less than a half-inch from his body. There were burn marks from the gunpowder residue on his back, on his skin.
Oh, yeah. She wanted him dead.
She definitely wanted him dead. She was seen standing over him, and apparently, as she tried to fire the 6th and final round off from the gun, it shot out, hit the ground, ricocheted off the road, and hit a lady called Gladys Yule, an innocent bystander, blew her thumb off. Well, it didn't blow it off. She just lost use of it.
Oh, no. Gladys.
Gladys.
Poor thing.
Yes. Poor lady. Gladys
This used
Yule.
to be so traumatic, though. I mean,
Could you?
granted, like, thankfully nothing worse happened, but like, it ricocheted off the ground. You literally would be like, where the fuck did that come from?
Right. And like my groceries now all have blood on them. God damn it. Yeah, just a litany of things.
It's so random.
Ruth then stood there and asked his friend Clive to call the police. And after being immediately arrested by an off duty officer, she was heard saying, I am guilty. I am a little confused. The gun now resides in the Metropolitan Police Crime Museum. Curious. At the station, she seemingly was under no duress. She was also not under the influence of any drugs or alcohol. She was taken to the jail cell, and that's where she stayed overnight, where she kept her composure the whole time. She was at the magistrate's court the next day and was ordered to be held without bail. So this is where I'm going to start using the English terms to relate it to the English judicial system. Pretty much everything is the same. There are differences, like minute differences in the way the lawyers, which they call counsels, operate. Obviously, there's different laws involved, but for the sake of the story, I'm going to try to make it as westernized as possible so it makes sense.
I mean, don't forget about the wigs.
Oh yeah, Parliament and their fucking wigs. So she was ordered to be held without bail, whatever that means for the UK. She was examined twice with no evidence of mental illness by two separate doctors. She had an EEG, which showed regular activity, and was interviewed twice by both sides with no evidence of insanity. This woman went through the litany of tests they had for her in 1955, and she was fully, wholeheartedly with it and absolutely took all ownership of this crime. Which is,
I mean, she didn't even run. Like, she did it and then called the police on herself.
right. So
I just don't know why she would want to give up her whole life when she has two kids.
she didn't have a great life, wasn't watching one of them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I guess if her son was still with Bertha, I don't know where
yeah,
her daughter
the
was, but
woman who the woman who didn't fucking protect her from her dad. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
So like, I can't imagine. So on June 20th, 1955, she is dressed in a black suit with a white silk blouse and appears in court with a freshly blonded and coiffed hairdo. This bitch went ahead and made it look good one last time, honey.
Mm.
There was a huge concern in her counsel's camp after she appeared for court because she was so striking, but she didn't change a fucking thing. She said, fuck you, I'm guilty, and I'm also pretty, goddammit.
I mean, where does a badge of confidence, I suppose?
When you've gunned a man down in the middle of the street with cold blood, I'm not so sure there's any shame left.
I mean,
So,
she knew that this was going to be a historic moment, and so of course
did
she was
she?
going to look good.
I
I
feel
think
like she, I
so.
feel like she lost her fucking mind. I mean,
Well,
yeah, you're right. Good point. She did at the aftermath. She knew what she was doing. I think you're right. I mean, let's be honest for a minute. The sources I have all say the same thing, but nobody really tells us of how she was as a person. But being born on October 9th, she was sassy, sultry. You know goddamn well that woman didn't miss a beat when it came to being flirtatious. She was a very good escort, too. So you gotta imagine she had a little sass posture to her.
I guess I'm thinking she may have lost her mind.
Momentarily.
Right. But after taking accountability, spending time in jail, talking to the police, et cetera, I mean, at that point, it's like, well, fuck it. At least I'm going to look good.
Right.
And I feel like we know this story ends in a hanging. So she very likely thought this is going to be a moment.
I mean, more than likely, you're right, because she refused to ask for an appeal. That version is in the UK. She refused to implicate others, which turns out there was room to implicate others. So the only question put to Ellis by the prosecutor, Christmas Humphreys, was, and I quote, "When you fired the revolver at close range into the body of David Blakely, what did you intend to do?" And her answer was, "It's obvious. When I shot him, I intended to kill him." This reply guaranteed a guilty verdict and the mandatory death sentence. The jury only took 20 minutes to convict her, which, why do you need a jury when she's already pleading guilty is my question. What a waste of time. So, like I said, she did not want to appeal the decision, but everybody else around her fucking did. John Bickford, he was a journalist. He wrote a 7-page letter. I'm actually it's like a 14-page letter to the Home Secretary Gwilman Lloyd George requesting, but that got denied. She then dismissed him as her lawyer and asked for the people who helped her with her divorce to represent her. So they went and saw Bickford, who urged them to ask her where the gun had actually come from. So on July 12, 1955, the day before her execution, she was seen by the two attorneys as she wanted to write up a will. They finally pressed her for the full story, and when she did tell them, she made them promise not to put what she had told them in the appeal and or writing, but the one absolutely refused and said, "No, we're taking this to the authorities." They took her words back to the judge. She disclosed that by the weekend before the event, she had received and was trained to use the 38 by her finance boyfriend, Kusin. He also apparently drove her to the murder scene in a taxi cab, supposedly. After 2 hours of talking, the lawyers took the new evidence to the judge and it was investigated. And he said it made no difference. It only made it worse for her because now it was premeditated murder. He also said that the bystander was part of his decision, stating, "We can't just have people shooting off firearms in the streets." She did write a final letter to Blakely's parents stating, "I have always loved your son and shall die still loving him." Eye roll. She was to be hanged just before 9 a.m. on July 13th in the room of the hangman, Albert Pierpont. But there was a hoax call, which actually caused her to be executed at 9:01. The noose is now also next to the gun at the museum. Sadly, due to the custom of British executions at the time, she was buried in an unmarked grave within the walls of the Holloway prison. Thankfully, in the early 1970s, all women were exhumed from the prison grounds for reburial. She was finally laid to rest at St. Mary's Church in Amersham, Buckinghamshire, which oddly enough is only about 3 miles away from from the victim, Blakely. Her headstone currently says Ruth Hornby, 1926 to 1925. She was only 28 years old. So, this was one of the most controversial situations in Britain at the time. She was of deep interest to the public, as you can imagine. She was also the last woman to be executed. Apparently, it really upset the prime minister, but he never really mentioned it on paper. However, he did struggle with the decision for the duration of his tenure. There were also journalists who were appalled and wrote scathing columns that questioned capital punishment and referred to it as a medieval savagery of the law. The abolition of the death penalty happened just 10 short years after her execution. Short. In that 10 years, a large majority of people were actually able to appeal and not be executed at all, even though they were identified for the death penalty. It was like a single-digit percentage of people who actually were executed at that time. So it made sense to just abolish it and restructure the sentencing. So although Kusin had maybe or maybe not been involved in the situation, he was never been persecuted, even though he did corroborate he in fact did give her the weapon. So he kind of got off scot-free a little bit, and part of me wonders if it's because of his affluent parents.
If what?
If it's because of his affluent parents.
Oh.
Because, you know, he was younger than her. He was 25. So the rest of the story is tragic even still. After she passed, her ex-husband George Ellis completed suicide in 1958, and her mom was found in a gas-filled room, alive but never the same again. She survived. Her first son, Andy, was in bedsit, or what's a state foster care program ultimately. After that, so yeah, he was put in bedsit after that. He was just 10 years old at the time of his mother's execution, and it seemingly never received any help to process the trauma because in 1982, he desecrated her grave and then completed suicide shortly thereafter.
Oh.
There were folks in the system who felt bad for him, including the trial judge who did send him money every year while he was in the system. Then the persecution council paid for his funeral. So, like, you know, people were following this tragic story and these poor people after the fact. Her daughter, Georgina, was 3 years old when her mother was executed, ended up in foster care after her father completed suicide when she was 6. She ended up surviving into adulthood, thankfully, appearing on the program called After Dark. However, she passed of cancer in 2001 at 50 years old. Not much more on Georgina. I'm assuming she lived a life of trying to heal.
That's a lot of suicide.
Yeah, it sure the fuck is. A lot of it. Crazy to me. This entire time, this case had been discussed in some facet of society. And the Brits had been hoping for an appeal of her case the entire time. So people have appealed to reconsider her case and grant her a pardon up until 2008. So from the 50s until 2008, I don't know if there have been others who have tried to get her pardoned since then, but 30 years of asking if they could pardon her is still kind of crazy to me when she straight up did it on purpose. Like, pretty black and white, and it's against the law. So, like, I get that you want to morally pardon her because she was super traumatized, but the law is the law. Like, and the court system sees it as that. So,
but it's almost like, I mean, I guess she didn't know technically that she was gonna be hung, but you kind of have to know that that's an option that could happen, right? And so I almost wonder, like, instead of her committing suicide, this was a suicide of sorts.
Yeah, I agree to that. She took him down with her. So there have been many adaptations of the story, obviously, and recently in June of 2023, ITV announced they were going to adopt the story from the true crime author's book, A Fine Day for Hanging, the real Ruth Ellis story. They finally named the story Cruel Love, the Ruth Ellis story, and it aired in a 4-part series, started in March 2025. So we can go find this shit wherever we find our British television. And of course, there are a few books written, a few films. She again appeared in a film called Yield to the Night. It was the only film with a direct portrayal, and that was in 1985. That one was called Dance with a Stranger. She's of course inspired several other films since. So thank you to Wikipedia, standard.co.uk, tvinsider.com, and capitalpunishmentuk.org for being my sources today. Thanks for y'all who are still with us for sticking with this sad story. But I just had to do it because it was so intriguing.
Wow. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. I mean, even if she wasn't clinically insane or mentally unwell or whatever, it's like she was, though, because you don't live through all of that physical, emotional, sexual abuse and come out unscathed. You're not
Right.
just like fine and normal. Like, sorry, you're not just gonna like go about your life, you know, as if nothing ever happened to you. Like, all of those moments kept repeating themselves in every partner that she found.
Right.
I mean,
So, interestingly enough, there are different tales to how her trial went down. And I forgot about this part, but in this uh what's it called? Source, she had pled not guilty so that she could tell her side of the story in court. Um they say it's because it's not necessarily for an acquittal, but she wanted to disclose the involvement. Um she says the involvement of Findlaters in what she considered to be a conspiracy to keep David away from her. She said that he only hit me with his fist or hands. I bruise easily. She also described a recent miscarriage of a 2-month-old fetus a few weeks or days previously. I do not know which. David got very violent. I do not know whether that caused the miscarriage or not. He thumped me in my tummy. So, unfortunately, she was messy.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, maybe not clinically insane, but definitely damaged. She's sitting there
Mhm.
saying, I bruise easily as an excuse or a way of like toning down his abuse.
Right. Yeah. So,
But we all know that it had to have been pretty bad or something really, really shitty besides just that miscarriage happened because it drove her to want to kill him.
right. And I'm going to assume that like a lot of the situations that she had experienced in her lifetime drove her to want to kill him. Like all the
It could have
shit.
been just compounded, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, man, oh man. I wish they wouldn't have killed her though. I feel like if she had just gone to jail for life, we would have gotten a clearer story from her
I
later
agree.
on.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that she had come to terms with it, but she was definitely in shock.
Oh, unfortunate. The whole thing, all of
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah. And then the capital punishment uk.org article, it goes into like super, super deep, sad details. I just chose to not dive in that deep. But um there's a lot of information in that one too. If you guys are curious to keep going with it, get more information.
Hmm. Well, thank you for skimming through it all, I guess, and giving us the core moments and a good understanding of her
Oh
life
yeah.
and how she got to where she got to a point where she was holding a gun a half an inch away.
Less than. Less than. Oh, also, she was just a little human being. She was 103 pounds.
Oh my gosh. Tiny, tiny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's that. Crazy. Crazy ass story. Imagine the story now. I cannot, like, it would not be so cut and dry. It would be like the Johnny Depp trial with what's her fucking name.
Mm-hmm.
Chaos would have ensued the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
She would have likely been found not guilty.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I just
It's just
feel
the
so bad. Like
past.
I said, I just don't understand why she took that path when she has the two kids because the son ended up killing himself.
Right.
That's why I was like, I mean, I didn't know that that's how the story was going to end, but that's why I mentioned it earlier because I was like, well, now you have two kids, whether you're raising them or not, feel super abandoned.
Yeah, 100%. And then they get thrown into the shitty foster care system. They're likely going to experience abuse too. So the vicious cycle continues.
Right. Oh, yeah, yay.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a sad, shitty one, but you know, it's the reality
mm-hmm,
of life.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing that story with us, especially after
Mm-hmm.
it piqued curiosity last week. We're doing a really good job, I must say, of following through on remembering
You're telling me.
our own tasks that we were giving ourselves.
You're telling me. When I went to do this one, I was like, oh, I already know what I'm doing. Fuck yeah.
We've been on a pretty good run here lately of actually following through with what we say we're going to. So go us.
Proud of me.
And I guess that means now it's also Atta Girl time in addition to me patting myself on the back just now.
Pretty much.
Atta Girls are where we are proud of ourselves for something that we've done or something that's happened to us. We just like to end on a positive note. And do you have an Atta Girl that you would like to share, or you want me to go first?
You can go first. No?
Well, it was unfair because you were yawning and I was talking, and then your response was so quick, but I had already caught the contagious yawn.
I'm not sorry.
Um, so my Atta Girl is that in preparation of my dad and stepmom coming to stay with me, I did quite a bit of food planning. So I ordered all the groceries online, had them delivered, knew what meals I was cooking every day. I mean, unless they wanted something different, right? Um, and then the first day that they got to my house, they were busy, doing their whole unpacking, getting situated, whatever other stuff. And I was chopping up all the veggies and the fruit and like getting everything ready. So for the entire time that they were here, we had food for every meal every day. We'd not go out. And they bring stuff with them too. So like sometimes they just had like a bowl of Cheerios or whatever. But um anyway, it made all of the projects and stuff that I had planned go really smoothly because we would be like finishing up or be like exhausted or whatever, be like, okay, it's like 5 o'clock, we're donezo. There was no conversation about what are we doing for dinner, where are we going, what are we having. There was no conversation about, who's gonna do what or what
Mm-hmm.
or how things are getting cooked. Like it was just all handled.
I'm so proud
That's
of
my
you.
Atta girl.
Add a girl. I mean, that's like pretty fucking huge. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It
Facilitating a
is
meal, making sure everybody's got food available to them while they're at your house, like
for every meal. Yes.
pretty epic. I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
I
And I
would have a
mean, my
10.
stepmom was just thrilled that she never had to cook, like, because she does all the cooking, right? My dad doesn't cook. So,
Right.
she was like, this is glorious that somebody else is doing the prepping, the cooking, etc. But also, I usually make stuff that they don't typically have.
Oh yeah, even better.
So this is like them trying new things and liking them. And then um I decided that they were all going to mostly be Instapot meals
If it works.
because I mean it was the least amount of mess, the fastest, etc., etc. And so I've now inspired my stepmom to use her Instapot instead of it just being,
good.
a decoration on the counter. Um, it was the first time I'd really used it a lot too, so it was a little bit of a trial
I
and
remember,
error.
I was gonna say, I remember you buying that thing for yourself to make chili in.
No, it wasn't. It was
Or,
when it was for the hives because
oh, right, that's
I
right.
was trying to cook
Low
a
histamine
low
thing.
histamine diet, and there were a lot of recipes that use the Instapot for the low histamine diet because the faster you cook food, the less histamine buildup it has.
Right.
So, like if you were to cook food in a slow cooker, that means it would have more histamine levels in it because it took longer to cook. So, the
So I'm
Instapot
screwed.
being a boom, boom, boom situation is also supposed to be better for you if you're trying to eat low histamine and not have hives.
And if you want to hear more about that, ask Nicole to do another video because she could do a whole nother hour video on eating
Yeah.
a low histamine diet.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Well,
So,
proud of you. Had a girl.
thank you. That was a lot of it wasn't a lot of work in the execution. It was more of the planning.
Mental load.
Well, and also because I have a dad who's kind of picky,
Yeah.
right? Like he only eats certain vegetables and you only eat them if they're cooked a certain way.
Mm-hmm. A man child for a father. That's what I'm hearing.
He's expanded his palate. So, like the fact that he is actually willing to eat an asparagus is quite the feat.
60-year-old toddler.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But yeah,
Does he
so
get
it's
the
not
sticky
like I
bites?
have this open window of things that I could make. It's like kind of a closed
Right.
window. So he ate
Awesome.
everything I made.
Incredible.
I did it, guys. I
Incredible.
fucking did it.
I mean, applaud. Heavy applause. I would applaud you, but I've got a cat
Yes.
getting manipulated in my hands at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Look at
Mr.
it.
August. Yes.
Love them. Well, I had a girl. I had a girl. My had a girl is I didn't burn down DTW on Thursday. On my
The Detroit
fucking
Airport. For those who don't
yes.
know the acronym for our airport, it's DTW.
I was slated to go to California to visit family with Seth over the weekend. It was supposed to be a quick, fast trip, and it turned into a non existent trip. Thank you, Juneteenth, and all the call offs. And I don't even know, like, I'm not mad about it. I just feel like we should have done better. Like,
Who's
we,
we?
by we, I mean United should have done better in preparing for the new holiday.
Oh.
Don't expect your crews to work on Juneteenth and schedule all your flights as normal, knowing full well a majority of your crews are going to call off because it's a new holiday. Like, come on. Offer
Mm-hmm.
them offer them overtime. I don't care. Time and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Compensation for this or prep them. Their expectation is if you call off, you're going to be this is whatever. I just do better, United. So, I'm really proud of myself because I didn't fully melt down and just go into wow wow mode. I got ourselves to a point where I made a call on canceling the trip because it was just a never ending like chain of delays that were going to cause us to be in California for all of 3 hours and it wasn't going to be worth it. So I canceled it and we pivoted and we had surf and turf at the house over the weekend instead. And we get to reschedule a new time with more time and more better planning with all the family. So it'll pan out to be better. But I was very sad panda on Thursday. Angry sad panda.
So
Inconvenienced.
the Atta girl is just that, you didn't throw bows.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. I didn't like, my that was a true test for my relationship also because I was letting my anger fly and he was absolutely not. He was cool as a cucumber this time around. The roles were reversed, which was nice. Come to find out he was on an edible, so I will be looking into those and probably buying a fuckload of those in the future for all of us.
It's now a requirement for any time you're gonna fly.
In public, just being in public in general. Yes.
Oh,
But yeah,
goodness.
so I've had a bunch of crazy shit happen to me with airplanes and trips over the years. This is a first. This was a first for me to be all the way at the gate and just kept getting pummeled with delays to a point where I had to go get my bag just to go home. Like it was the biggest waste of my fucking time. I was there for 7 hours.
That is a very long time to be in the
Yeah.
gray area and indecision and not knowing what's going to happen.
Just the rug being ripped right out from under you.
Yes.
Granted, like I said, I was at home. I'm very thankful. I met a woman who was from San Francisco and she was just trying to get fucking home.
Yeah. Yeah. At least you had the option to say, I'm getting my stuff and going.
Yeah,
But
fuck this shit. I'm out. And like the airline, I will say it wasn't a shitty, all things considered, it wasn't a truly shitty experience because I was at home. I do think that if I was not at home and I had to experience it that way, I'd be a completely different mindset. But they offered, free rescheduling of flights, even with some of their partner airlines. And so they were looking to see if like American Airlines had any flights alternative. So they were doing everything they could within their power, automatically sending us $15 vouchers for meals. Give me a break. Thank you.
mm-hmm.
But are you fucking kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Kicking me discounted rates for hotel rooms. It should be fucking free, but who am I? So it was just a whole litany of things where
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they could have done better, but it wasn't really as bad as it could have been. But then I think the biggest kicker was watching Spirit Airlines take off like 3 times. And
Mm-hmm.
United did not.
Mm-hmm.
Like Spirit Airlines had their shit together enough. They were able to fly unobstructed. Why? United, why?
mm.
So yeah, that's my
Yeah.
Atta girl. Not losing my fucking mind at the airport.
All right. Well, if you liked what you heard today, please rate, review, subscribe. You can request a Hoe of History by emailing us at homancepodcast@gmail.com or following us and sending us a DM or comment on Instagram at homance_chronicles. And that's
The
it.
Homance is out.